Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into secrets of college. And that's with me. I'm going to be talking to you from me. And I just wanted to say, I started in college as well. And I've been introducing my guests for 4 years. The college that I went to was Fairleigh Dickinson University. And I went through going through different college recruiting myself, as well as afterwards going into the workplace and eventually coming here about 4 years ago and doing this show to you, the guests, the parents, the students that are out there. I've been working on giving you college information this whole time. So I figured I'd give you some more insight into what I've learned over the past 4 years from all of the guests that have been on my show and give you some insight, some more insight into all of the techniques, the questions, the answers that these guests were giving you, and maybe give you more insight into it. So basically, going into my first slide that I have here, it's talking about polishing and building a resume. It's talking about the accomplishments and the strategies and the essays that you'll be doing. What you want to do is you want to do a resume to send out to colleges with a picture on it, to talk to the people at the college level. Give them a picture of yourself on the resume. Put the academics on there. Put the any extracurricular activities on there, the recommendations, if you play a sport, the different schedules, maybe the goals and achievements that you've reached in the sport, as well as academically, the goals and achievements you've done academically. So these are some of the things on the first slide here to give you that understanding that colleges need to know about you. The second slide is the most common misconceptions that parents have and students at the high school level have. They talk about their sons and daughters being good enough in their sport or being good enough in academics. It's great to have that aspiration, but if you don't know, colleges don't always know where you're located. And that is the biggest thing at the college level, is to find out geographically, where do you want to go to school? So if you go to a small school somewhere and want to go to a bigger school somewhere, they need to know about you. So the only way to do that is by doing these resumes to send out to the schools, because if your school is really small, there's no one there to know about you. The second thing is, don't always depend on coaches and guidance counselors. The coaches and guidance counselors do their job. They're supposed to be there to help you as much as they can. But you also have to remember, they are there to work their jobs as well. And that's what I mean by that is that high school coaches and guidance counselors have lives of their own. Some have their own students that are going to school. So what you want to do is you want to give them the information so then they can help you and guide you in a more direct route by picking a school, knowing what schools you want. So then when you go to those coaches and those guidance counselors, they understand what you're looking for. Instead of just going in and knowing, I don't know exactly where I want to go to school. Well, the guidance counselor and the coach can only give you a certain direction if you don't know exactly where you want to go. But geographically, if you say to them, I want to be in the Northeast or the Southeast or the Midwest or the West Coast or Hawaii or Alaska, well, there you go. Those give you them a more of a direct route. And then when you define it to even a smaller amount of schools, like a particular state or a particular town or a particular league, then you can actually get them to look into it even more. And the last thing is, sons and daughters that are number ones in their class. And they say, oh, wow, I can go to any school I want. I'm number one in my class. The reality is there are only 8 Ivy League schools out there. So number ones in their class, there are thousands and thousands of high schools in the United States. But the Ivy Leagues can't take everybody. It's almost impossible to pick number ones all across the United States, all go to the Ivy League schools. So some of those students that are number ones in their class sometimes don't get into an Ivy League school. So you have to have a backup plan. You have to have a plan of action, not just in the school itself, but other schools in general. My next slide is supermarket recruiting. And this is more for the athletes that are out there. So the way I put it is really simple. Think of supermarkets as the colleges. Think of the people in the supermarkets with the shopping carts as the college coaches. Think of the products on the store shelves as the students. Now, I happen to give an example of Coca-Cola and Pepsi and RC Cola and a store brand. And the reason why a lot of people go with the Coca-Cola and the Pepsi brands is because they advertise. They advertise 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And the reason behind that is to make you pick up that particular product. The other brands, the RC Cola, the store brands, those are the more lesser brands. And the reason why you don't always pick up those brands is because they don't advertise. So if you want to get your son or daughter to really be picked up by someone, you need to advertise. That's what I mean by supermarket recruiting. It just means that you want to get the product advertised. And your son and daughter are those products. They're the product at the college level. They're the ones that the colleges want them. And it's not just for athletes, it's for admissions as well. If they don't know about you, they can't recruit you, no matter if it's academically or athletically. My next slide is about men's sports. These are just some of the men's sports that are out there. There's many different sports out there. You take riflery. They have 7 colleges in the United States that have riflery. There are sports like volleyball and water polo, wrestling, gymnastics, cross country. These are all men's sports that sometimes people don't even realize they can go on and play at the college level. It's up to you, the parent, to sit down with your sons and daughters and to go through everything and to look at that and say, oh, wow, this is something that we can do. You have sports like bowling, 17 colleges out there that have bowling programs. Why not try them out? Check them out, look at them, find them. That's the key to getting out there and getting to the college level, is knowing exactly what's out there. If you don't know what's out there, you won't know how to get there. So the next step is women's sports. That's my next slide. And again, the same thing with women's sports. There's so many different sports out there, from rowing. If you're a rower and you want to get out there, there's 121 colleges in the United States that have rowing programs, but you need to find them. That's the key. Again, water polo, riflery for women is a little bit higher than riflery for men. There's 12 colleges that have riflery for women. Then you have lacrosse and your gymnastics. You also have fencing out there. So these are just some of the sports that you're out there actively looking for. If you don't know that they're out there, you won't know how to get them. So get out there and look for them. Now, there isn't a slide on here for what people always ask for, which is scholarships. And usually the thing that I always tell families is there are plenty of scholarship books out there. There's one called The Scholarship Book. It's on Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Most of the websites have it. It's really a $19 book, $20 book, but it has thousands of scholarships. It's to sit down and to look at those scholarships, to work through them all, because there's so many different kinds, from ethnic group scholarships to being a left-hander. It's just so many different ways of doing scholarships. But you have to read each and every one of them. You have to find out when the deadlines are. There's so many different things in the scholarship book that you have to do that. My next slide is the expense of college. So if you can see, the average public university is around $21,000. The average private university is around $42,000. The elite private university is up past $50,000 a year. Now, this is without room and board. This is without the extracurricular activities that your sons and daughters might do at college. You also have to take into account traveling expenses. So if your son or daughter lives in New Jersey and happens to go to school in California, well, they have to get out there somehow. So how about airfare? You have to account into airfare. How about storage? Because, of course, they're not going to just wear one set of clothes for the 10 months that they're out there. So you want to make sure you have storage out there. You want to make sure that you have the travel expenses included. This is all added costs that families sometimes don't look at. So you want to make sure you have all the added costs. This just gives you a generalistic of what colleges cost. And you also have to remember, every year, colleges go up every year. So if your daughter or your son is in a school where it has $25,000, $30,000, $35,000 a year, you know by the time they graduate, it's going to be even more than that. So you want to make sure that you have a way of taking care of all of this. It's very difficult to get out there and to say, wow, I only have enough for 1 year. Well, all of those explanations and all of those things that you have in your mind need to get taken care of before your son and daughter actually goes to school. So you should go to those guidance counselors, go to those schools and check out the financial aid offices and sit down with all the people and work out something for every year that you're going to be there before you actually start school. My next slide is the chances of graduating in 4 years. Well, 2 in 10 from a public school graduate. That's pretty good. And less than 1 in 2 from a private school. 65% enrolled students do not complete a 4-year degree, and 50% do not finish where they started. So what happens is this. A lot of times, if you don't pick the right school, you're going to end up at another school because maybe you didn't fit in correctly at that school. There's 3 things that I always tell students, parents. Geographically, where do you want to go to school? Academically, where can you graduate from? And then the last thing is extracurricular activities. If it's a sport, where can you play? If it's theater, dance, band, any of that, can you do that at the school? If those 3 things are not in your mind when you're picking a school, then you shouldn't be going to that school. You should be checking all the schools out and making sure that you have the right school before you go there. That would eliminate that 50% of not going to the one school and then staying there for 4 years. You might actually get it to 100%. It's very difficult to pick a school. It's more like picking out a house. You don't pick out a house without seeing the house. So you want to go visit these schools, check them out. If you're not actually able to check out the schools, these days they have online services where you can actually tour the school online. That's one thing that you can do. If it's still something that doesn't fit, maybe it's not the right school. Maybe you need to look at another school. So what I'm saying to you is checking the schools as early as possible. What I found in the 4 years of doing the interviews with all of these different people is the earlier to find and look for schools, the better. So if you're a freshman or a sophomore in high school, now's the time to start looking. Now's the time to start figuring it all out. Because if you're a senior, what happens as a senior is everything gets rushed. It's 12 months before you graduate, 10 months of the school year and then another 2 months of summer, right? And what happens is it goes so quickly that you don't actually find the right school. And hence what you hit is a 50% changeover. Where I'm trying to tell you is to go more in depth and look for the right school for you. My next slide is the amount of aid currently available for students in the United States. It's $165 billion. That's a lot of money that's out there available. But if you don't actively look for it, it's not going to be there for you. Everyone has a chance for it, but you have to actively go out and find it. Where my next slide shows you the types of aid that are available. Academic aid. Academic aid really comes down to academics. That's it. If you have great grades, you're going to get academic aid. If you don't, the odds are against you. Athletic aid. Well, athletic aid, it comes down to the same thing. But in athletics, it's a little bit more because it also comes down to the openings. And what I mean by that is this. If let's say you play football or you play basketball and you play a particular position, maybe it's a quarterback, maybe it's a running back, and you want to go to a particular school, but yet they're all stacked up with quarterbacks and running backs, the odds on you getting into that school goes down a lot because there's so many that are already there that there's no way of getting in. Now, if you happen to go in a year where they're graduating a lot of those positions, then the odds start to go in your favor. It starts to go up even more. So the reality becomes picking the right school. Again, looking for the right particular sport, the right particular classes. Other talents that you're looking for. Talents like doing extracurricular things, charity work, volunteer work. That all means a lot at the college level, especially if you create your own charity. Maybe you build up a charity. You have your own foundation of some sort. Well, that helps at the college level because not a lot of people will actually do that. If you join the circus for 3 months, not a lot of people are going to join the circus for 3 months. So what I'm saying to you is have something that's extra, something that's out of the ordinary that not a lot of people would do. Maybe you're a carpenter. Maybe you build things for a living. That's great. If that's something that you like, just add that to your resume. Then it comes down to financial need. Financial need is family income and family assets. That's what it comes down to at the college level. That's what they're looking for, is family income and family assets. If you don't have a lot, they give you a lot. If you have too much, they won't give you as much. That's the way it works. It's just, that's the process. And if you can't get into the process and you don't work the process, no one will know. So the last couple of things there are scholarships and grants. Those are things that the school has. Scholarships are at the school. It's more about the alumni at the school that offer the different scholarships. So a lot of the monies come in from the alumni. And that's what creates these scholarships for different sports. And if you're not actively in a particular sport, well, of course, you won't be able to get that particular scholarship. But if you do an extracurricular activity and they happen to have scholarships for that, then you go after that. Grants come from the federal government. And the federal government is basically, it gives the school a certain amount of money. And the school has to give that money to people that are financially needed. Those are things that you need to not pay back at the end of the 4 years. Scholarships you don't pay back at the end of the 4 years. But the others would be things that you have to pay back, other loans that are out there, student loans of different sorts. Those are loans that actually get paid back at the end of graduation and start to paying them all back. If that's the case, okay. But the bottom line is finding the right school for you. And all of these 4 years that I've had doing all of this with different coaches, teachers, administration people, financial aid people, career service people, they all are saying the same thing. Start as early as possible. Look for the right schools. Let you pick the schools. Don't let other people pick the schools, because other people will pick the schools that they like. So you want to pick a school that fits you. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to give you college information to give you insight into different things. Because if you've noticed over the 4 years, people have done many different things. Heck, I'm even doing this show, but I've done different things in my life as well. So everybody does different things throughout their life. And if you're one of those students that are out there, picking a school, finding the right career path is a big thing. So everybody wants to try to do it. And that's what we're looking for here. We're just looking for a way of giving you an understanding of the process. Because I found in all the years, there isn't a book out there that gives you an exact process. There isn't a book to tell you exactly what a school does, how it works, how it goes about things. There isn't one out there. So this show gives you that process. It gives you that understanding of what they look for. Certain schools looking for different types of academics, different types of athletics. And it gives you an understanding of how they find you. Finding you in the high schools, finding you outside the high schools. Because that's the key. The key always comes back to the advertising. Advertise yourself. Tell people about yourself. Tell people what you do and how you do it. Because in high school, some schools are small, some schools are large. The largest schools tend to get more publicity, only because they're bigger. They have the bigger names. The small schools have the same thing. It's just that no one knows about you, so you need to get yourself out there to get people to understand who you are and what you do. That's the key to this. That's the key to this show. The key to this show is to get you to take an action, to get you to move and make something of yourself, to find the right passion that you can do as an individual. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to give you a better process, give you a better understanding of how the colleges work. And that's all we're doing. All of my teachers and coaches and administrative people have all told you basically the same thing. Start early. The earlier, the better. So, as we come down to the end of our show, what I want to give you as advice, because I always tell my guests to give you advice, is the same thing as everyone else. Start as early as possible. Find the right school for yourself. Find the right academic school for yourself. Find the right sports school for yourself. Find the right school and make a difference for yourself and find it in any way possible. So thank you very much for this show. And until next time, like I said, Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.